that's what we're going to be doing and modeling for you today. So in your table of contents, multiplying and dividing fractions. Because it is a review, I feel like it is okay that we do both of them on the same day. Because it's only something that you have to tweak in the division, and you're doing then again the same thing as your multiplication. So, when we start Cornell Notes, you always have a title. So you're going to put your title up top. And you will always have a date. And if you number it with page numbers or topics, topic 4. So every one of my pages in my notebook that are going to deal with multiplying and dividing fractions, I'll have a 4 on. And then, usually there's a line that separates my topic from my notes. Some of you have done this before, but it's called P-notes in elementary school. And you don't use them like you do Cornell notes in middle school or high school. You actually will be using these notes if you choose to use them the way that they were designed. So now you'll move over from the red margin line and you will draw a line straight down. Now in any other class, over here in your margins would be questions about the notes, because this section is your main note-taking section. And you will learn to ask questions that are different levels of difficulty. So you may find that you're taking Cornell notes in language arts or in social studies, and over here you're having to put questions about the notes that you took over on this side. Math is a little bit different because it's practice. It's not so much recalling information, being able to analyze information, it's solving problems. So your Cornell notes on this side will look a little different in math than what they look like in other content areas. So we're going to start with multiplying decimals. So we're going to put here that we're multiplying. Step 1. Now because today we just have fractions, there are no mixed numbers. Then the first step is to multiply across top. You multiply your numerators. Which again is across top. And then that's the numerator answer. Step 2, multiply across bottom, or multiply your denominators. Or across bottom. And then step 3 is simplify if you need to. Put it in simplest terms. Reduce it if it needs to be reduced. my margin, since this is a set of notes, I might say, how do you multiply fractions? Question mark. So example 1, we're going to do 2 examples for each type. I might have 3/4 squared. What does it mean to square a number? Do I times it by 2?
No.
What do I times it by? 3/4. So I times it by itself. The exponent tells me how many times to use my base as a factor. That means multiply. So this problem is actually 3/4 times 3/4. So if I'm following the steps, step 1 tells me to multiply across top. So 3 times 3 is 9. And 4 times 4 is 16. So 9/16 is the answer to that problem. Now I would bring out my problem over here to the side. This was 3/4 squared. And you bring out the original problem over into the margin. Cornell notes were invented in Cornell University in the law school when the professors were finding out that high school students and even college students coming into the law school did not know how to study. And so they created this as a tool that would help them be able to study the information that they were being given in class. And I will show you how they are going to be used and how they're beneficial when we're actually done with notes today. Example 2. Five ninths times 3/10. Now notice I haven't seen any X multiplication symbol. I haven't seen any dots right now that shows me that I mean multiplication. You have to get used to these other ways, like squaring or cubing, or just seeing parentheses next to each other, or having a whole number and a letter, but the letter means a fraction. These other ways that they're telling you you have to multiply without showing you that operation symbol that you're so used to seeing. So, we know that we multiply across top and bottom. But this is one where I can clearly see there's some reducing I can do on the inside. What can I reduce on the inside? So C1. Can I reduce 5/9? No. Can I reduce 3/10? No. Can I reduce 5/10? Yes. By what number? 5. 5 will go into 5 one time. 5 will go into 10 two times. You can always reduce top to bottom and diagonally. You cannot reduce side to side. And if you reduce in here, it keeps those numbers from getting huge. Like right now, I know my bottom number is not going to be 90. That's a pretty big number, and I know I'd probably have to reduce it at the end. And who wants to find factors of 90 to find the GCS? Nobody. So if I do my reducing that can be done in here, then I already have my reduced answer when I'm done with my steps. And I don't have to worry about reducing my answer. Can I reduce 3/9? Yes. By what? 3. 3 will go into 3 one time. 3 will go into 9 3 times. Now these are my numbers that I multiply across, and then I will have my answer, and I don't have to worry about reducing that 15/90th by the 5 and the 3, the 15 that we would have reduced it by out here. So now we've got 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 2 is 6. So our answer is 1/6. This is something that you want to get used to checking. Can I reduce on the inside with all the fractions that I see, top to bottom and diagonally, so that once you do your multiplication, it's already in your simplest form, and your numbers are staying smaller, and you're less likely to make mistakes. Yes? 3 times 2, you get 6. Because we already reduced on the inside. If I did not reduce on the inside, it would have been 5 times 3 is 15, and 9 times 10 is 90, and 15 over 90 would reduce by 15. 15 will go into 15 one time, 15 will go into 90 6 times. So you would have had to have reduced 15/90ths down by 15. Who wants to do that? Nobody. When it's so easy to see these multiples in here. And here's the 15, the 5 I did here, and the 3 I did here. I already reduced it by 15. But I done it in here when those numbers were small and easy to see. I didn't do it out here when those numbers got huge in the 15s and 90s. Question. Now we're going to bring that problem. Now again, it's the original problem. It's the 5/9 times 3/10. It's not the 1/3 times 1/2. It's the original problem that I bring out to the side. And guys, when you can, if you see color in my notes, you need color in your notes. Seeing color in your notes when you're studying helps you if you have a photographic memory or you're developing a photographic memory to see the page as you're trying to recall what was done. Some of you, when you took that interest inventory or your learning style inventory during main time, it asked you how many of you can actually see your notes or see the page of a book when you're taking a test or when you're studying. And that's what it means, that you can actually picture something that you've looked at and worked with for a while. And guys, these notes are meant to be used. If you're going to take them with me and then that's all you're going to do with them, they're not going to do you any good. So once we're finished answering the 2 examples from dividing, I'm going to show you how to actually use your notes. Now, we're going to change, and we're going to do not multiplying, but dividing, starting with the steps. Just like we did here, we did multiplying in the steps, 2 examples. We're going to do dividing in the steps with 2 examples. Step 1, copy the first fraction. It stays the same. Now guys, it's these that the pre-assessment showed a lot of you had trouble with. Just the basic fraction ones. And we'll go back over this when you're actually using mixed numbers. But for today, it's just the fractions and getting that step of what we do. Step 2, you're going to change the division sign to multiplication. Because dividing is actually multiplying by the reciprocal. So step 3 means we're going to flip that second fraction. Flipping a fraction is the fraction's reciprocal. So step 3 is flip the second fraction. So, just like I had a note over here, now that this is a set of notes, I asked up top, how do you multiply fractions? I'm going to ask here, how do you divide fractions? So if I have example 1, and I have 5/8 divided into 1/2 sections, we're going to follow the steps. Step 1 says I copy the first fraction, 5/8. Step 2 says that I change my division to multiplication. And step 3 says I flip the second fraction. So now the 2's on top and the 1's on bottom. And now it looks just like the problems we did up top, where we multiply across top, multiply across bottom, and there we've got our answer. But before I do that, I'm going to want to check to see if I can reduce anything on the inside. Because that's how you're going to keep your numbers low and not have to do so much work. 5/8 can't be reduced, 2/1 can't be reduced, 5/1 can't be reduced, but 2/8 can. 2/8 can be reduced by what? 2. 2 will go into 2 one time, 2 will go into 8 4 times. So now that I've done that reducing, once I get out here, that's my answer. I won't have to simplify outside because I've already done that. 5 times 1 is 5, and 4 times 1 is 4, and so my answer is 5/4. Because this is an improper fraction, 4 will go into 5 one time with 1 left over. So we actually have to turn that back into a mixed number. to be a proper answer. Now again, if this is the EOG and you have this agreed response, 5/4, you have to put in your improper fractions. You cannot put in mixed numbers in graded responses. So now let's take this original problem, not the one we've changed it to, but the original problem out here on the side. We have 5/8 divided by 1/2. Because I'm at the bottom of my paper, when I go back to the top of my next paper, I'm going to still put a 4 because I'm on that topic still. I'm going to still have a line so I can finish my notes. And I know that I'm on example 2. Now, if you're not at a new sheet yet, you just keep right on going down the bottom. So I had 5 divided by 2/3. I know I have to have fractions. How do you change a whole number to a fraction? Put a 1 under it. So now that I have a 1 under it, I need to follow my steps. Steps say, copy the first one, change my division sign to multiplication, and flip my second. 3 divided by 2. Is there anything on the inside that I can simplify? No. 5/1 can't, 3/2 can't, 5/2 can't, 3/1 can't. So that means once I do my multiplying across top and bottom, then that's the simple form. So 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 2 is 2. The only thing is, it's an improper fraction. So that means 15 divided by 2. How many times will 2 go into 15? 7 is your whole number answer. When you do your reducing and you get your remainder, that's your new numerator. So it's 7 1/2. Your divisor is your denominator. So 7 1/2 is how you change it back to its mixed number form. Again, you're going to put the original problem over here, not anything that we did to change it. And we're not going to start this right now because we're going to get a little bit further into note-taking and how the notebook needs to be set up and how you use your notes. But usually, either during class, right at the end of class, or when you get home and you revisit your notes, you'll do a summary at the bottom of what the day was. And we usually call them wilts. Like a flower wilt, what I learned today. And then you will eventually get to the point where, after you look at your notes a second time, and you can actually think about it and process, then you're able to write a couple of sentences about what today was about. What did you learn? Are there still questions you might have? Now, for the part of how we're going to use the notes, or if you choose to use your notes, how you will see that it definitely starts to help as far as bringing your grades up, bringing your assessment grades up, bringing your standardized testing grades up, math skills, that's coming up. Did y'all do already last year or math? Well, we're doing math this year, so you'll do your math assessment pretty soon, your fall one. So if you start using these and doing, studying them the way that they're meant, then you will definitely see an improvement. Now, the way that the Cornell professors were meaning for this to work is that you take them out. You don't do them in a binded notebook. They're loose leaf notes usually. And what it was meant to be is that you folded it down that line so that now all you see are the questions. So if this were animal physiology or microbiology or English 1, then you have these questions about, or U.S. history, about what your notes were. And you're able to say, how do I multiply fractions? And without looking at the notes, you should be able to recall the steps and then flip it over and check yourself. Or you have a study partner and you just see the questions and they see the answer. You read the question and give them the answer. They tell you if you're right or not. So it's meant to be a study tool. Now again, because it's math, it's a little different, and this is how you should be using them for math if you choose not to do it this way and fold them. They should stay in your notebook, so that means if you're a binded, bound notebook person, it's okay. You can still use your notebook. But I would take another sheet of paper and cover up the notes so that you only see the problems that were solved in class, Hayden. That way, when you are home and you're revisiting your notes, if you only look at notes when you write them for me and you never go back to them, they're not going to do you any good. If you don't keep them bound in a 3-ring binder, in a notebook, and organized, and you go back and look at them and work with them, then they're not going to do you any good. So the way you would do this, if I were studying with these notes, and I got to a question in math, then I would just try and answer the question. How do you multiply fractions? Well, you make sure you have fractions, that they're not whole numbers or mixed numbers. Then you multiply across the top, you multiply across the bottom. And after I check my comprehension or my retention, I would move it down and see, was I right? Then when I got to this problem, I would come over here on this paper and I would solve this problem. It's not going to take you long to solve these 4 problems, but you're going back and you're interacting with your notes from the day a second time. So I would do 3/4 times 3/4, multiply across top and bottom, move it down, see if I got the right answer. So I'd have what I worked out the second time on my own here, because I didn't work this out on my own. These were notes from the day. But when I went back and tried it on my own, then I've got my answer to compare with, did I get what we got when we did it in class. Then I would have this problem to solve. I'd bring it over here, I'd try to solve it, across the top and bottom, pull it down, did I get the right answer? So you're quickly just going back, and the questions and the problems down the margin, you are working with them a second time before you start homework, or before you start to finish what you didn't finish for class that day. Because the more times you interact with your notes, the more you're going to remember, and the more you're going to learn. Are there any questions so far? Because that's how our notes are supposed to be done. I haven't been able to do them and model them for you the way that I should. If you're in AVID, that's going to be required of you as Cornell note taking, and keeping a binder that is organized. And because I've had to be doing them on the board, I haven't been able to model for you how we're supposed to be doing notes. But this is what you can expect the rest of the year. Also, if you're absent, This gets copied at the end of the day, and I put your name on it, I put the worksheet that goes with it, so you have the notes as a tool, and then you can also go and pull the video up on Google Classroom, and you have the notes from the day and the video explanation if you miss a day. And so it also gives me this resource to be able to pull it and run it for you, because you won't have to borrow somebody's notebook and copy notes. Any questions? Okay, I'm fixing to come around and give you your practice sheet. One side is multiplying, and because we did multiplication first, you can start on the multiplication side. The other side is division, and there are only like 10 problems per side, and I probably have already done one of each set for you in your notes if you would pay attention. Any questions before I pass these out to you? You are going to be taught how to use the calculator to put fractions, mixed numbers, operations in, but that's only after you have worked with them manually, because there are like 18 problems on the EOG that you cannot use a calculator for, and mostly they're fraction and decimal problems. So you need to get some work without them first before we start solving with calculators. Again, as you begin working, if you come into a problem, you get stuck, raise your hand. Do not solve these in your notebook, because the work needs to be turned in stapled to the paper. And so that was some of the problem this morning in block